Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 6. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupada Paramahansa Paribhajikacharya Stota Rasata Sri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prince Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gora Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 6. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim swam adhishtaya sambhavami atmamayaya. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim swam adhishtaya sambhavami atmamayaya. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim swam adhishtaya sambhavami atmamayaya. Aja, unborn, api, although, san, being so, Avyaya, without deterioration. Atma, body. Bhutanam, all those who are born. Ishvara, the Supreme Lord. Api, although. San, being. So. Prakritim, transcendental form. Swam, of myself. Adhishtaya, being so situated. Sambhavami, I do incarnate. Atmamayaya, by my internal potency. Translation and purport of Srila Prabhupada. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body is never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living beings, I still appear in every millennium by my original transcendental form. Purport. The Lord has spoken about the peculiarity of his birth. Although he may appear like an ordinary person, he remembers everything of his many, many births, whereas a common man cannot remember what he has done even a few hours before. If someone is asked what he did exactly at the same time one day earlier, it would be very difficult for a common man to answer immediately. He would surely have to dredge his memory to recall what he was doing exactly at the same time one day before. And yet, men often dare claim to be God or Krishna. One should not be misled by such meaningless claims. Then again, the Lord explains his prakriti or his form. Prakriti means nature as well as swarupa or one's own form. The Lord says he appears in his own body. He does not change his body as a common living entity changes form from one body to another. The conditioned soul may have one kind of body in the present birth, but he has a different body in the next birth in the material world. The living entity has no fixed body but transmigrates from one body to another. The Lord, however, does not do so. Whenever he appears, he does so in the same original body by his internal potency. In other words, Krishna appears in this material world in his original form, in his eternal form, with two hands holding a flute. He appears exactly in his eternal body, uncontaminated by this material world. Although he appears in the same transcendental body and is Lord of the whole universe, it still appears that he takes his birth like an ordinary living entity. Despite the fact Lord Krishna grows from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youth, astonishingly enough, he never ages beyond youth. At the time of the battle of Kurukshetra, he had many grandchildren at home. Or, in other words, he has sufficiently aged by material calculation. Still, he looked just like a young man of 20 or 25 years old. We never see a picture of Krishna in old age because he never grows old like us, although he is the oldest person in the whole creation, past, present, and future. Neither his body nor his intelligence ever deteriorates or changes. Therefore, it is clear that in spite of his being in the material world, he is the same unborn and eternal form of bliss and knowledge, changeless in his transcendental body and intelligence. Factually, his appearance and disappearance is like the sun's rising, moving before us, and then disappearing from our eyesight. When the sun is out of sight, we think that the sun is set, and when the sun is before our eyes, we think that the sun is on the horizon. Actually, the sun is always in its fixed position, but owing to our defective, insufficient senses, we calculate the appearance and disappearance of the sun in the sky. And Because his appearance and disappearance are completely different from that of any ordinary common living entities, it is evident that he is eternal, blissful knowledge by his internal potency, and he is never contaminated by material nature. The Vedas also confirm that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unborn, yet it still appears to take his birth in multi-manifestations. The Vedic supplementary literatures also confirm this. Even though the Lord appears to be taking his birth, he is still without change of body. In the Bhagavatam, he appears before his mother as Narayana, with 4 hands and the decorations of the 6 kinds of full opulences. His appearance in his original eternal form is his causeless mercy according to the Vishwakosh dictionary. The Lord is conscious of all his previous appearances and disappearances, but a common living entity forgets everything about his past body as soon as he gets another body. He is the Lord of all living entities because he performs wonderful and superhuman activities while he is on this earth. Therefore the Lord is always the same absolute truth and is without differentiation between his form and self, or between his quality and body. A question may now be raised as to why the Lord appears and disappears in this world. This is explained in the next verse. Ajo pisan avyayatma bhutanam ishvaro pisan prakritim swamadishtaya sambhavami atmamayaya. So on Wednesday we discussed some of the qualities of Krishna, because Krishna explained to Arjuna what was the difference between him and Arjuna. And the difference was that Krishna doesn't change his body, therefore he remembers everything that happened in the past. Whereas Arjuna, by changing his body, he forgets life after life. And that is the same with us. Even the animals, they completely forget. For example, a dog may come to you and you may say, "Hut, go away," and 2 minutes later the dog comes back. It doesn't remember that you don't want him around. So we have a little better memory than that, but it is not that big. As Prabhupada explains in the purport, even we cannot remember exactly what we did yesterday at this time. We have to dredge our memory. So in the previous verse, Arjuna was taught by Krishna what is the difference between God and the living entities. Still, people claim to be God. There is a whole school of philosophy in India called the Mayavada school, which was started by Shankaracharya, and it has thousands and millions of followers, and they all believe that once you become a sannyasi, you become God. In fact, when 2 sannyasis of the Mayavada school meet each other, they greet each other by the greetings, Om Narayana. All glories to Narayan. In fact, Lord Chaitanya, when he took sannyas in Bengal at that time, Vaishnava sannyas was not common. The accepted understanding of sannyas was Mayavada sannyas. So Mahaprabhu took the same Mayavada sannyas, and he was known, or he was seen as a Mayavadi sannyasi, although he was, of course, a Vaishnava. So when other sannyasis would meet Lord Chaitanya, they would greet him with the Mayavada greeting, Om Namo Narayana, and he would reply, Krishna Matirastu. May your mind always be in Krishna. In this way, he would announce that although I am externally in the dress of a Mayavadi sannyasi, actually I'm a Vaishnava. I'm a devotee of Krishna. So a devotee of Krishna understands this. He understands that Krishna is Matta Parataram Nanyat, that no one is equal, Kinchidasti, nothing and no one is equal or greater than Krishna. A devotee, this is his first understanding. His first understanding is that Krishna is unlimited and I am very limited. Krishna is infinite and I am finite. In fact, the more you understand Krishna, the more your smallness, your tininess becomes manifested in your heart. The more humble you become, the more insignificant you feel. It's just like if you see the Himalayas, you feel very small. They're so huge. One time in Nepal, I wanted to see Mount Everest. So I took a bus and I went to a village near Mount Everest, and I arrived at night. So I went to sleep, and next morning I got up early and I went out on the balcony, and when I saw Mount Everest and the Himalayas surrounding it, it was overwhelming. I felt tiny, like a little bug looking at a huge mountain. So in the same way, the more you understand Krishna's greatness, the more you understand how huge he is in all ways, then the more humble you become. In fact, the indication of a devotee's understanding of Krishna is the amount of humility he has developed. Not pride, humility. Even a Vaishnava Acharya, who may have thousands and thousands of followers, he doesn't think that he is greater than anybody else. He thinks that Krishna has sent me, all these followers, to keep me busy, to give me something to do in connection with Krishna, so I don't fall into illusion. And of course, Prabhupada gives the example of the lion, that when the lioness, when she picks up her cubs, she picks them up with her teeth, but the cubs, they feel great safety in the mouth of their mother. Whereas if the tigress hunts a deer or an animal for prey, and she preys on an animal, that animal feels death in the same situation. Or the example of the monkey, that the baby monkey, he holds on to his mother by his little feet and his little hands. So when the mother on the back, so when the mother jumps from branch to branch on a tree, there is a danger that a little monkey, because of the movement of the mother, or an unexpected shock, the monkey can fall from the mother's back. But that doesn't happen with a kaiba tug. Tiger cub. A tiger cub always feels safety by totally surrendering to his mother. So in the same way, we totally surrender to Krishna, and we are completely protected by his power and by his unlimited position. On Wednesday, we described how Krishna has 6 wonderful qualities: beauty, knowledge, strength, wealth, fame, renunciation. So we described these 6 qualities. So Krishna has 6 qualities, and he also he has 6 opulences, Sad Aishwarya. So the 6 opulence: beauty, wealth, knowledge, strength, fame, and renunciation. These are called Sad Aishwarya, the 6 opulences of Krishna. But Krishna also has Sat Guna. He has 6 qualities, which are described in the Krishna book by Srila Prabhupada in the chapter of the prayers of the personified Vedas. There, the Vedas, the Vedic knowledge personified, that describe the 6 gunas of Krishna. And the first guna is that Krishna is apapa vidham, which is also explained in the Sri Ishopanishad. Apapa means, papa means sin, and apapa means without sin. So Krishna is without sin. No matter what he does, he doesn't become contaminated by sinful activity. If I do something, if I don't do it in Krishna consciousness, then there is a reaction, a negative reaction. But Krishna, whatever he does, it may appear good or it may appear bad in our eyes. It is always free from any reaction. It is transcendental. So when Krishna kills somebody or when Krishna embraces somebody, the result is the same. They become purified. I gave the example of the gopis, that they ran to Krishna out of lust, but by associating with Krishna, they became purified. Of course, we know that most of the gopis, they were eternal associates of Krishna, so there's no question of lust or mundane lust. But many gopis were living entities coming from the material world, becoming liberated and taking birth in Boma Vrindavan, in Gokula Vrindavan, and if they had any imperfection left, by associating with Krishna in so-called spiritual lust, they became purified. So Krishna is apapa-vidam, that he cannot be contaminated by any sinful activity. Then Krishna, he is beyond birth and he cannot die. He's beyond birth and death. He doesn't become old. He never laments. He doesn't become old. This is also explained by Prabhupada in the purport here, that on the battle of Kurukshetra, he looked like a young boy, although he was over 100 years old. He had great-grandchildren. You never see a picture of Krishna looking old. This idea of God with a white beard and an old man, this is a perversion. God is perfect. There is no imperfection, no matter from which. By definition, God is perfect and he can do anything. That definition has to be accepted. So he never gets old. He never laments. Although sometimes people, they challenge and they say, well, why did Lord Rama lament after Sita? When Sita was kidnapped by Ravana, then Lord Rama, he became very upset. But that was an external, because actually Sita was never kidnapped by Ravana. When Ravana came to the ashram of Ram and Sita, and Ram was away chasing after a deer, Ravana dressed himself as a sadhu. So Sita welcomed him and served him, but then when he manifested his form as Ravana, she understood his intention and she entered into the fire, because they were in the ashram they kept the fire, and Agnidev took Sita and he presented a Maya Sita. So he fooled Ravana. And of course, after Ravana was killed and Sita was liberated from his imprisonment, she again entered into fire and came out again to prove purity. So Lord Rama also lamented for Krishna, but that lamentation is a spiritual lamentation. Rama can never be separated by Sita in any way possible. God is never separated from his energy. No one can take Krishna's energy and keep it. If we take Krishna's property in this material world, it becomes a contamination. It brings us down. It becomes troublesome. Whereas if we use the property in the service of Krishna, as the reality is, because Krishna's property is never separate from him, then it becomes an agent of purification. We become happy, we become transcendental. So Krishna, he never laments. Krishna is never hungry, and Krishna is never thirsty. One time there is a story in the Mahabharata that Duryodhana, he wanted to punish the Pandavas, so he thought of a scheme, and he convinced Durvasa Muni, who had 50,000 disciples, to go to the ashram of the Pandavas in the forest to take his bhiksha, or his lunch. Of course, Draupadi, she had a pot called the Akshaya Patra, that as long as she didn't eat her lunch, she could serve as many meals unlimitedly. But when Durvasa Muni came and he requested to be fed for lunch, the Pandavas agreed. Then he went with his disciples to take bath. Then Draupadi said, I cannot feed his 50,000 disciples because I've already taken my lunch. So she became very upset and she began to pray to Krishna. Krishna appeared in front of her and she explained the situation, and he said to her, just give me a little bit, see if there is any left. She says, no, I've eaten everything, there is nothing left. Krishna says, look in the pot. And in the pot they found a very small speck of vegetable preparation, and Krishna ate that and he became satisfied. So satisfied that the whole universe became satisfied, including Durvasa Muni and his 50,000 disciples, who coming out of the river, they felt so satiated, they didn't have the effrontery to go and ask, because they couldn't eat anymore, so they went away. So in this way, Krishna protected the Pandavas. So Krishna never gets angry, Krishna never gets thirsty. Whatever Krishna desires becomes law. You cannot, whatever Krishna does is perfect, and whatever he does cannot be changed by anyone. Whatever he desires cannot be changed by anyone. So again, in the Mahabharata, there is a verse, Tarko Pratishta Sutayo Vibhinna, that you cannot understand what is the purpose of life, what is your relationship with God, what is real Dharma, but Tarka, or by discussion. Tarka means philosophical argument. So, Tarko Apratishta. Pratishta means to establish, and Apratishta means not able to establish. So, Tarko Apratishta. By argument, you cannot understand what is the purpose of life. Shrutayo Vibhinna, and also within the Shastra, within the Vedas, the Quran, the writings of the Buddha, the Bible, there is Vibhinna. There are different varieties of Dharma being explained. You cannot understand what is the proper one. Naso Rishi Yasha Matam Nabhinna. And also the Rishis, their mind, their matam, or their explanation, or their understanding of philosophy, Nabhinam, they cannot agree with each other. One Rishi competes with another Rishi for establishment of philosophy. Therefore, in the Vedas, there are Sat Darshan, 6 philosophies. I think I explained them in the class before. So there's 6 philosophies, all sound practical, but actually you cannot understand which is the proper philosophy. So, what is Dharma then? What is your actual duty? So, Dharmasya Tattvam, the truth of your duty is Nihitam Guayam. It is placed within the heart of the Mahajan. Mahajano Jena Gata Sapantaha. So these Mahajanas, they are the ones who can determine, who can tell us what is our proper duty. Therefore, we follow a Guru Parampara, as explained in this chapter 4. Evam Parampara Praptam. We get our knowledge from the Mahajans. And there are 12 Mahajans, Swayambhur, Narada, Shambhu. The first Mahajan is Swayambhu, one who took birth by himself. That means Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma was born on a lotus flower from the navel of Mahavishnu. Lakshmi Devi was present, but she had nothing to do with his birth. Krishna can do anything, and he manifested Lord Brahma. So Brahma is called Swayambhu, and we actually belong to Brahma's line, Brahma Sampradaya. So Swayambhu, Narada Muni, Shambhu, Lord Shiva, these are the first 3. Kumara, Kapila Muni, the 4 Kumaras, sons of Brahma, Kapila Dev, the son of Devahuti, and Manu, Swayambhuva Manu. These are 6 Mahajans. Then 7 is Prahlada, 8th Janaka, 9 Bhishma. So Prahlad Maharaj was the son of Hiranyakashipu. He was a disciple of Narada Muni in the same line. Janaka was the father of Sita Devi, and Bhishma was the son of Shantanu. The story of Bhishma I also explained in a previous class. This is 9, 10, 11. And then Bali Maharaj, 11, and Vyasakir, Sukadeva Goswami, and Vayam. Vayam means Yamaraj. Yamaraj was speaking this verse, instructing Yudhishthira. So these 12 Mahajans are able or understand what is the real purpose of life. So if we want to understand what is the real purpose of life, we have to follow one of these Mahajans. And we follow, as I said, in the Brahma Sampradaya. From Lord Brahma, the knowledge went to Narada, from Narada to Vyasadev to Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya has his own ashram in South India, in Karnataka, in Udupi. From Madhvacharya down, their disciplic succession, until Madhavendra Puri, from Madhavendra Puri to Ishvara Puri to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Suvarna, Varna Hemanga is Suvarna, the color of gold, Hemanga, molten gold, and he's mentioned in the Vishnu Sahasranam, in 1,000 names of Vishnu, as an incarnation for Kali Yuga. And his quality of Krishna Varnam, he's always chanting the holy name of Krishna. And he's also Krishna himself, Tvisha Krishnam, but having the mood or having the color of Radharani, not being dark black, dark color of Krishna, but golden like Radharani. So Suvarna Varna Hemango, and Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sangha Upangasta Parshanam. Another quality of Lord Chaitanya's incarnation is Anga, or his associate, and Upanga and his intimate devotees. Parsharam, he doesn't come alone. When Lord Chaitanya appeared in the material world, it's Krishna himself, and all of Krishna's friends also came. Some of the Manjaris, some of the Gopis, Krishna's cowherd boyfriends, Lord Nityananda, who is Lord Balaram, came as Nityananda. So all the associates of Krishna came and appeared 500 years ago in this Kali Yuga just to teach us what the Mahajans had established. So what we are explaining now, what Krishna is explaining now in the Gita, was also explained thousands of years ago. There is nothing new. The truth is the truth. You cannot change it. You may repackage it to make it presentable according to time and circumstances, but the essence of knowledge, the essence of our understanding is that we are eternal servants of Krishna. So, we will continue on Friday with verse 7, and we have some comments from Vishnivamsa, all glories to the assembled devotees. Brigu Pandit, Hare Krishna, he put a very nice garland. Haribol, Anna Maria, Hare Krishna, obeisances to the assembled devotees. Mandi Prior, Hare Krishna. So Hare Krishna to all of you. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you all on Friday. Haribol.